Welcome to Technically Edinburgh, the podcast for and about technicians at the University of Edinburgh. We recently joined forces with Mike from the University of Liverpool Tech Talk podcast to present a workshop at the Higher Education Technician Summit. The workshop was about using digital media projects like this podcast to engage with our technical communities. During the workshop, we recorded a live episode with none other than the incredible Kelly Vere, and we are going to play it for you now. We hope you enjoy the episode as much as we enjoyed recording it.
Hello and welcome back to our podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Charli, and today we're really excited to be joined by an incredible champion for technicians in higher education and research across the UK.
That's right, we're joined by Kelly, the Director of Technical Skills and Strategy at the University of Nottingham, a Programme Director for Technical Commitment. God, it's a mouthful, this, Kelly. Transforming the spotlight of the technicians across the country.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi both, that's quite the intro, thank you.
Welcome and thanks so much for being here with us today. Before we dive into everything that you're doing now, would you be able to give us a bit of a background on your career journey so far?
Absolutely. From the beginning?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So I became a technician at the age of 18. I'd finished my A-levels. Which weren't actually in science, strangely. And I wanted to go to university. This was back in 1999. And I felt very strongly that at that point in time, a degree would be really helpful. The fees had come in, tuition fees had come in, I think the year before in 98. And I couldn't afford to access university in the traditional sense. It just wasn't an option for me and my family. So I looked for any job that would pay for me to do a degree part-time, like literally any job, and I applied for everything. And one of those jobs was a junior medical technician in the Division of Immunology at the University of Nottingham. And as I said, my A-levels weren't in science, so to this day, I'm still not quite sure how I got that job, but I did. And I became a junior medical technician, and I studied part-time at Sheffield Hallam University. Actually, I used to drive up the motorway in my little red Fiesta, do a lecture, and then drive back to work and be a technician. So it was pretty challenging, working full-time and studying part-time. But yeah, that's how I became a technician. And I have to say, I love it. Hopefully you know I love it, because I'm still obviously working in this field. But it was amazing to me to learn about the contributions that technicians make to institutions like universities.
What was it something you wanted to do from the start, or was it a career path that just picked your brain, or...?
Well, I have to confess, I didn't know that technicians existed. You know, as a naive 18-year-old, I thought universities were full of professors and students. I'd never stepped foot on a university campus until I began my job, you know, at the age of 18. So I didn't even know this community existed. And I guess that's a common theme which I've tried to address over the years.
So that leads that nicely on. So you've gone on to found the Technician Commitment. What inspired you to start that? And was there a particular moment or experience that sparked the idea?
So I guess what happened was I became a technician at 18, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it was amazing to me how integral technicians were to the student experience, to research and innovation. And I could not understand how I never knew this whole profession existed. You know, I never knew that technicians even was a career option for me. And I felt very strongly that we needed to increase visibility. Like, I was valued and seen within my immediate research group, but when you looked beyond the school, the faculty, to the wider institution, to the wider sector, there was a real lack of visibility and recognition for technical professionals. So I felt very strongly something needed to be done about this. That led me, like, this could take a long time if I really go into my life. I guess when you looked at things like higher education policy, technicians were never talked about, even like at a government level. When you looked at higher education strategy at a sector level or an institution level, technicians weren't there. When you look back into the history of science, for example, technicians have always existed. Isaac Newton had a technician called Hawksby. But the stories of those technicians were invisible, and you get the idea. So I felt very strongly we needed an initiative. Fast forward to, I guess, 2017, I launched something called the Technician Commitment. I felt that we needed a simple framework that could empower institutions to drive increased visibility, recognition, career development, and sustainability of skills and roles in the organisation.
Those 4 pillars. I always forget one of them. Every time we talk about them, I forget.
Is it a different one each time you forget?
I always, it's always the last one. Since launching it, I'm sure it's had some challenges. What was the biggest one you sort of faced along the way since launching the Technician Commitment?
Well, I guess if I go back a step, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So really where I guess it started for me was I was able to undertake a part-time master's whilst working as a full-time technician after I'd finished my undergraduate degree. And that master's was in higher education, and I used the dissertation part of the master's to research into, the roles and contributions of technicians in universities. And at the end, I wrote a dissertation. It was called something like "University Technicians Misused and Misunderstood," something like that, question mark. And I felt, okay, now I've written this thing and I've done this research. What can I do with it next? And my supervisor in our School of Education said, we could write an academic article. And I said, well, I don't know if anyone will actually read that. So we wrote a piece for Times Higher Education. Times Higher Education was a weekly magazine, I guess, or for the higher education sector. Technicians rarely featured in Times Higher Education either, so I was amazed when they published it.
Wow.
When they did, I guess what I didn't know back then was that I was putting my head above the parapet. So coming back to your questions, Michael, one of the biggest challenges for me, probably personally, is actually becoming an accidental advocate for the technical community. Yeah. In my article for Times Higher, I was talking about the need for technicians to have voice and visibility. I then got invited to give a 30-minute keynote talk at a conference a few months later.
Wow, that's a long talk.
I am terrified of public speaking.
Oh, God.
But I realised I couldn't have this rallying call to give technicians voice and visibility and then go, no, thanks, but not me. I went and did it, and I was so scared because it's just one of my things. I just get really nervous about public speaking. And being in the limelight, I guess. You guys getting me on a podcast. A personal challenge for me has been sort of stepping into that and doing that. But I mean, it's just been fantastic what we've done. In terms of additional challenges, with the commitment, I think your question was about specifically. I guess being a technician, I'm sure many people here today have probably experienced that sometimes there can be some negative connotations associated with that, some negative stereotypes associated with that. And I guess pushing back against those, they're few and far between. There's been fantastic support for this, but on occasion there have been sort of personal comments and things aimed at me in what I was trying to do, and that I guess has been challenging on occasion.
Well, I've got to say, it's not just you who doesn't like public speaking. I think most technicians do like to hide. I'm not really fond of public speaking, but we're doing a live podcast today, so
yeah, I find sometimes it's easier just to do it and put yourself out there.
Absolutely, it's an important part of our roles to communicate what we do. That's what I guess we've been lacking in some ways, isn't it? So no, absolutely, I've learned to try and embrace it.
So on the flip side then, those are the challenges. What's been the most enjoyable, surprising, inspiring, take your pick, of working on the Technician Commitment for you?
There's so many things that have come out of some of the initiatives that we've introduced over the last few years. I think for me, it's when it's individuals' stories. So when people come up to me and they said, our institution signed the Technician Commitment and it meant that I could go to this conference that I'd never been able to go before, or I came on the Herschel programme that we created a few years ago for women in technical leadership, and that's really helped me feel more confident. And those individual stories, there's nothing better than that. It's amazing to know that your work's having an impact on people.
It is, yeah. I think as soon as you get your head above the parapet a little bit and you make yourself more visible and more known, you become more integrated in the technician world. Looking more broadly, though, what do you think technicians bring to university that people might not see or appreciate? It's a tough one, that.
There's.
So I led a piece of research which led to a sector report. It was the very first sort of hot topic sector report we published through the Technician Commitment, which was about the role of technicians in supporting students, but particularly through the pastoral care that as a technical community we bring to students, and mental health and well-being. I think that often is something that isn't recognised as a key part of a technical role. You're at the forefront the student experience. And often I think students find technical colleagues sometimes more approachable than
like
academic
the
colleagues.
Like the middle person between the academic and the students, really.
But I guess what we were trying to say in our report was, there's this fundamental role that technicians play in terms of pastoral support for our students, but it's not officially recognised at that point in many job descriptions, for example, or in learning and development opportunities in that space, and that was something we were trying to address. So I think that pastoral care aspect of a technical role can often be overlooked.
Great. I'm going to put you in the hot seat even more so now with a question from the audience. So thank you for getting involved. How did you go about launching the Technicians Commitment? And in particular, how did you start getting the institutions on board?
Oh, that is a really good question. Okay. I was really fortunate to have support from the Gatsby Foundation, who were willing to fund like a bit of a test, if you like would universities engage with the Technician Commitment? I very deliberately called it the Technician Commitment. I've had a lot of people say to me, we don't like the word technician. I think we should take that word back, actually, and change what it means to be a technician. It's a highly, professional role in this sector. I knew that when I created it, universities would not get on board with Kelly, the technician from Nottingham, sadly, because, just given the, I guess, traditional hierarchy in the higher education system. But I knew that if I could get a couple of sort of high-profile vice-chancellors to publicly spearhead it, that would generate some interest. And I was really fortunate that the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Cambridge at the time and my own Vice-Chancellor at the time, Sir David Greenaway, publicly backed the Technician Commitment, and we were able to get some universities to commit to signing it. I also know that universities are very competitive. And so I thought I could play on that a little bit. So as soon as I knew I'd got Cambridge on board, then I could sort of say, Cambridge are doing it, Nottingham are doing it, and other institutions got a little bit of FOMO. And we were able to sort of have a little bit of a domino effect and grow it in that regard. And when we launched in May 2017, we launched with 36 managed signatories, which was fabulous. And it now stands at over 130 signatory and supporter institutions.
That's fantastic. It's just growing and growing. And there's definitely FOMO, I think. They're doing it, we should too.
I think one aspect that's really exciting is that the UK is definitely seen as a leader in this space now, so we get a lot of international interest now in the Technician Commitment, which we're trying to be really careful with. We want to be supportive and so forth, but it's really exciting to see how it's growing internationally too.
That's great. That's so cool. It's really cool. Do you want to read the next question?
I've got one here.
We've got one.
Okay. Something we're really passionate about, as you're aware, is doing a podcast and getting people to tell their personal stories, giving the technicians a voice and their visibility. Have you seen examples where storytelling has made a real difference within the sort of technical community?
I think storytelling's really important. I mean, essentially, when I wrote that very first article back in 2012, I was telling my story. I guess, like I say, I was just a little bit naive in knowing what it could have led to. So I've already mentioned very briefly the Herschel programme that we run for women in technical leadership. We have an end of it's a 6-month course, and at the end of that course we have an in-person sort of celebration conference day. We had a keynote speaker this year, because it just took place a couple of weeks ago, called Anita Kopok from the University for Creative Arts, UCA. And she told her story, and oh my gosh, we had 200 women in the room who'd completed the course, and they were absolutely mesmerised. And she was very honest and authentic, talked through her career development and some of the challenges she's faced, and it was incredibly powerful. It made a massive difference to all delegates.
Oh, wow.
Another audience question. From the 4 pillars of the Technician Commitment Initiative, which had the more development and which one's lagging behind?
Okay, that is a good question too. So we had an independent review of the Technician Commitment 2 or 3 years ago. We found that visibility and recognition, we're seeing more progress than career development and sustainability. And I guess that's because they're easier to do, if that makes sense. Whereas, putting in sort of new career pathways or an apprenticeship scheme to think about, takes longer. Yeah. So I think at the time, 3 out of 5 technicians said that they'd seen a difference in visibility and recognition. And I think 2 out of 5 technicians said that they'd seen a difference in career development and sustainability. That was around 3 years ago, but it's really important that we have these independent reviews so we can track how we're doing, how the initiative's doing.
It does seem that there is a lot of work going on career development at the moment, though, so hopefully in the next few years that will change, those surveys will change.
There really is. It's been fantastic. Universities are developing new pathways and processes, all the time. It's really exciting.
And what changes have you seen since launching the Technicians Commitment? And how do we make sure institutions avoid lip service in relation to signing the commitment?
So that's really important to me, that point around the Technician Commitment should never be a box-ticking exercise. Like, whilst it's wonderful that we can celebrate the numbers of signatories and supporters we have, I'm not really interested in the number. I'm interested in whether they're doing anything. And ultimately, I guess I'm working to ensure that we don't need a Technician Commitment. But I think we still do at the moment. But ultimately, I guess I'm trying to do myself out of a job. The Technician Commitments are truly collaborative endeavour. I think that's a key differentiator of the programme. You know, it's all about how you can work with other organisations rather than in competition with other organisations to drive change. We do keep in touch with signatories. We have a fantastic community of peer reviewers who look at the submissions that come in from all our signatories and supporters as well and track progress. And those that aren't engaging with that process, we knock them off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do. There is
That's great.
It's only a small stick, but if, you know, you can't come to the party if you're not
contributing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Always got to bring a bottle of wine to the party. So we've got a tough question here. For a technician, I think it's quite relevant. What do you think is the best way to combat just the technician mindset that other people may have in the technical professional world? Just a technician is.
So I have a slide when I give a talk about the just a technician phenomena. I myself as a technician used to say it all the time. My colleagues said it, and we've got to really change that narrative. And there's so many different initiatives. I mean, like this podcast, you know, showcasing and building visibility for the fantastic contributions that technicians as a profession make to higher education. It's essential that we really, change the narrative about what it means to be a technical professional.
I think we need to encourage us as technicians as well to come forward with, because I say it sometimes, I hide behind it, you know, I'm just a technician.
I think we have to remember that our organisations cannot function without us. We're essential, we're vital, and we should actually be really proud to be part of the technical profession that makes world-changing research happen. Literally, like, our colleagues and us are tackling big global challenges. I'm sure that's why everyone comes to work every day. We make a massive contribution, and to the students that come through our institutions as well. Often it's the technicians that they'll talk about in their national student survey sort of feedback. You know, they're the ones who absolutely help them so much on that journey.
What are you looking forward to most in the sector as it develops and changes?
That's a
hard question.
You didn't tell me that one in advance.
This is an audience question. We've got some good questions coming in.
I think it's just been really exciting to see how things have progressed. So I think a massive exciting development for me has been the Research Excellence Framework. So if those of you who are familiar with it, it's, you know, the way we assess research excellence, I guess, every 3 years. In the UK, and that's now really inclusive of technical staff. That'll take place in 2028. Results come out in 2029, and I think the fact that, you know, technicians can lead research outputs that can be submitted now is a massive game changer, for example. And also having technical representatives on the review panels, you know, that's really, really important. I think that increased recognition of the whole community that enable research and innovation is really important.
A simple question, just to quickly put in here. It says, what next?
So I have like some back pocket ideas that every now and again it's the right time to take them out. One of them a long time ago was, wouldn't it be great if there was a UK-wide conference for technicians? You know, in 2015 I was lucky enough to be able to make that happen. The Technician Commitment was another one. The Herschel Programme was another one, for example. World Congress is in my back pocket. I think
aim high.
We're getting closer to that. Actually, we've had interest from America, China, Canada, Europe, Australia. You know, in all the work that we're doing here in the UK. So I think a few years down the line. And then in terms of storytelling, another back pocket idea I have is I think it's really important that we encourage a younger generation to be aware of the technical roles and contributions that we make. So another back pocket idea of mine is I've got a children's book half written, and I don't know if it'll ever come to fruition, but I think we've got to make technicians visible at a very young age, but to their parents as well. So there's different ways that we can do that. So maybe that's what's next.
And we've also mentioned ITSS podcast,
Yeah,
maybe coming soon. We had a brief chat about this the other day, didn't we, Kelly? So
I love how you put that on the record now, Michael. That's
official
impressive.
now.
That's impressive.
My name's not next to it yet. So, so you've done so much building connections with the technical community. What have you found the most effective way to really engage people? So obviously we do conferences.
So I know you're going to be talking about like methods of communication here, aren't you? But I think what's probably helped me is the lived experience. I think if I had never been a technician, I don't think people would necessarily engage as much with some of the initiatives that we've tried to put in place. But I think being authentic and having lived experience in what you're trying to promote has really helped. And then I guess relationship building, and again, it also depends on the scale, doesn't it? You know, like I love one-to-one interactions, for example. I love hearing individual stories. But then it's also fantastic to do things at scale, like today, where we've got, you know, over 500 technical professionals in the room. So you're communicating at a different scale, aren't you?
I'm glad there's not 500 in the room today.
Yeah, right now.
We've only got 40 or 50. Come on.
So what is your secret to managing such a busy life? It's a nice personal question for you there.
I'm really lucky. When I first started out doing HETS and the technician commitment, it was just me. And as you can see here today at HETS, we've got an amazing team who are really passionate about this agenda and work so well together to make things happen. So I'm really lucky to be one part of, you know, a wider fantastic team.
Okay. And then the last question from the audience, I think, is how did you find the time to do a PhD while working as a technician?
I don't know if I did very well. So I did an EdD. So I mentioned that I did my MA in higher education and used that as an opportunity to research the roles of technicians. I then told myself I'm never doing any part-time study ever again, but the next year began an EdD, a doctorate in education, again focused on the technician commitment actually and how it had been taken up by institutions, for example. It took me 9 years because I kept getting distracted and doing other things. But an EdD is a really great way of, because it's about researching your professional practice. So actually the two were very interweaved. So that helps a lot. It's tricky though. I have a family, and so, it was tricky, but I have great support from great people. So great.
Amazing. Well, to wrap it up, as we can hear people moving outside, but we're going to try and overrun a little bit because the first speech overran. What one thing in the technical community, what one thing could you see happening or more change in the technical community, maybe in the digital workspace? Obviously, we're in digital workspace now. What one thing could you advise would be helpful in the technical community to improve sort of recognition for the technicians or visibility?
I think it probably comes back to the point that Charli made earlier. Right, we need to be proud and we need to take ownership of our profession. No one is going to do that for us. You know, we can't just sit here and wait for someone to go. You know, like actually, we all have a responsibility to, you know, really be loud and proud about our profession and what we bring to the sector.
That's great, Kelly. Thank you. It's been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, and also for everything that you're doing to support technicians and raise the profile of our career across the UK.
Well, thanks. That's really kind. But I think we should also say a massive thank you for you two. You know, you two taking on these podcasts at your respective institution is a fantastic way of raising visibility and recognition of what technicians bring to their institutions, and that will be happening at all different levels, both within and outside your organisation. So massive thanks, both.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening today as well.
Thank you.
And joining in with the questions. It's been really inspiring to hear Kelly's sort of background and what she's got in her back pocket for later on. If you want any more advice on podcasting or starting your own podcast, then do drop me and Charli an email or a message. We're around all day today, and we're more than happy to share our experiences or advise you on how you can go forward with podcasting as well. Obviously, the PowerPoints will be shared afterwards, and so we'll have questions. The podcast will be live
Soon.
Soon.
No commitment to when that's going on.
Yet soon. It'll be edited as soon as possible on University of Liverpool Tech Talks and the University of Edinburgh, technically Edinburgh podcast.
And we're on LinkedIn.
Both on LinkedIn and both on Spotify. So thank you all. Thank you again to Kelly.
Thank you.
and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
I also want to give a massive thank you to Mike, my co-host for this episode, without whose technical expertise and confidence in approaching Kelly as a guest, this episode just would not have been possible. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and on our new Instagram account, Technically Edinburgh Podcast, for all our news, new episodes, and updates. A reminder to Edinburgh technicians, Technician Week is returning on 1st to 5th of September, and the programme is coming together fast. Check our website for up-to-date info and booking links to make sure you don't miss your favourite events throughout the week. Finally, if you're interested in joining us as a guest or as a co-host on this podcast, please email us at technician.network@ed.ac.uk. See you next month for our next episode. Bye!